Hey, you tourists, it's your boy Domination. This is back of the basic. Chugga the deuces out, Texas, baby man. I dust back, you know this it is. Real men rust up, fake men rust up, real rust up, fake rust up. Proper what preacher preach on. And today's that we're gonna talk about, what we're gonna talk about today is we're gonna talk about music because everybody's making this huge commotion about these. You know, if you don't know, then you're gonna know that the music entertainment industry felt that, especially like for every music appreciation, every genre, for funk, R&B, pop, soul, you name it, but except hip hop. And but because I'm gonna tell you, I'm explaining to you why, but I'm gonna break it down what music is. And music been around at the beginning of time. Music is the art of music is the art of relative of sound in the time to produce a composition through the element of melody, harmony, rhyming, and timbre. It is one of the cultures, universe, and part of all human society. Generally in define of music, including the common element, much as pitch, which given which government melody and harmony, rhythm. I mean rhyming, and it associates concept of tempo, mental, and articulate, and does medicate and the loudness and softness. Do you see the difference when they talk about music, but singing and rapping? Because it says here the vocal techniques and the range from singing to rapping. There are certainly in instrument pieces and certainly vocal piece. But do you want to know what actual music meant in the instruments and the achievement and the pieces that are commoditive of singing and instrument? The word derived from the Greek mouskin arts of the mouth. See in morphology and greatly of musical technology. Music been around for years. That came from Greeks. That came from ancient Greeks. It has been around for a very long time, since centuries ago, you could say. But it goes back to the Greeks. It's art of the mute, like Muse, mune, the art of mune. That's what it means when they talk about music, like the arts. It's get you what to think, how to think. That is what music is really all about. To get feelings, your emotions, your sadness, your anger, your joy, everything. Everything. Love, hate, you name it. Music is everything. Look, I've been listening to music as long as I could possibly remember since I was came in this world. But music changed a lot. Let's talk about the different elements of music and why music, other elements respected, except one element don't get the respect. Let's talk about the UWAP era. Let's go all the way back to the UWAP and what that means because it goes back in the 1940s. UWAP is a genre of rhythm and blues. That was what originated. Music that has origin around African American youth in the 1940s, mainly in the larger of the city of the United States, including New York, Philadelphia, Chicago, Baltimore, New Jersey, Detroit, and Washington D.C. And the culture's origins 1940s, 1950s. It started in 1940s, but it ended in 1950s. And what comes after 1950s when the UWAP come around? That's when the jazz and all this other stuff and blues and R&B, the list goes on. African American community across some major city on the East Coast, like Baltimore, New Jersey, Baltimore, New Jersey, New York, and the whole nine. The parent genre rhythm and blues, and different formally of beat music, publicly and buildings, pop rock, power pop, soul music. That's what comes after that. When it ended, doo-wop, that's when soul music come around. And the funk, disco, hip hop, rock, you name it. Surf music. Everybody does surfing USA, that stuff. White people can relate to that. Surf fine, yeah, fine. Believe it or not, that's where the original skateboarding came around. Skateboard came around where when they surfing in the waves and all that, there were a bunch of white guys who was into that. You don't find too many black men and women into that stuff. I mean, I can be wrong. I'm just saying. And then the skateboards came around after, because a lot of that whole skateboard, they got it from just riding the wave of their water boards. Think about it. So this is where UWAP comes from. The origin has complexive musical, social, and commercial origin. The musical and percussive UWAP's style is a mix of percussive and composition and uncritically and vocals that figure to American pop culture created by songwriters and vocal groups, both black and white, from the 1930s to the 1940s. When the UWAP, that's when what comes after the UWAP, when UWAP came there. Because that's when jazz and all that other stuff and blues. Because jazz came first. Then after UWAP and then jazz came first and blues and UWAP and funk and rock and roll and hip hop and the list goes on. And pop came from the 80s. Early 80s and the early 90s. Then the boy bands and all this other stuff. This is where, here's the original way what UWAP meant. The origin of the term, the origin of the name, all the musical styles originated in the late 1940s, and it was very popular in the 1950s. The term UWAP itself did not appear in print until 1961. It was used in for reference to the biblical song, The Blue Moon. The Miracle Blue Moon. In the Chicago Defense, just as the style Vogue was near its end, thought the name was dedication to the radio disc jockeys, accustomed, they did not accept the credit, stated that UWAP was already in use in California to categorize the music. So it started from them, and then there's some disc jockeys say they just ooh and ah, ooh and op, and ooh and op. Think about it. They just ooh la 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 like UWAP. That's you ooh and you op and you ooh and op and you singing on the melody and harmonize. So that's where it comes from, the doo-wop. You could do your research. That's my great grandparents' generation that into this stuff. And it 1940s and 1930s, whew, that's some hard times, because that's when blacks over here and white over there. There was no integration. Separate bathrooms, separate water fountains, separate restaurants. All that BS stuff that took place. Even you had to stay on your side of the neighborhood. They had to stay their side of the neighborhood. If you go to their side, you know what's going to happen to you. You're going to get killed or being in jail. It was rough at that time. That's when blacks did not have no rights and what we got now. Now, we already talked about the UWAP. And what does that mean? Let's talk about rhythm. Let's talk about the blues. Rhythm and blues, wherever you want to call it. The blues music. Blues is music genre and a musical form which was original in the deep south of the United States around 1986 by African American roots in African musical tradition, African Americans working songs and spiritual. It's called it folk music. It's for the folks that could relatable, something they could relate it to. And bluegrass, something that's they blew it and they sing it and harmonize the grass. Country music, jazz, jolly band, and ragtime, rhythm and blues, and rock and roll. They're one of the same. I don't care what anybody tell you. They're one of the same. You just singing, you be blooming. Blues mean you feel sadness. You sing about some stuff. Worry notes. That's what it means. Because it says here, blue notes or worry notes, usually third and the fifth of several flattery in the patriot are also patriot a essence of parts of the sound. Blues suffered or walking bass and reinforcing the truths like rhythm and forming a repetitive effect known as the grooving. Grooving, you know? If people don't know nothing about music, then you don't know anything about what reflects and how it reflects on people and reflects on society. This is where the term blues come from. The modernology. The term blues may have come from blue devils, meaning the marginalized coarsity and sadness. A early use of the term in this sense is in George Carmen, one act, Blue Notes, 1798. Phrase blue notes may also have been derived from Britain in the 1600s, when the term reference to the intentions advisedly and houselessly that can and commonize a service alcohol withdrawal. As time went on, the phrase lose the reference to the devils, and it comes to meaning a state of inebriation or depression. When you sad or you pressed or you something, you sing and harmonize, you blew and you felt sad. My baby left me. I felt some sadness. You sing in 2 minutes and 1 minute. Back then, records was cost like $8 or 95 cents. That was back then. By the 1800s in the United States, the term blues was associated with drinking alcohol. It plays a lot of part in that. A meaning which has survived in this phrase, blue law, which in prohibited the sales of alcohol on Sunday. And through the use of the phrase in the African American music may be ordered. It has been and attempted to imprint since 1912, when Heartwan Dallas Blues becomes the first copyrights blues composition. In lyrics, the phrase is often used to describe a depressing mood. You know, you always sad and hurt about something. This is what blues meant. You worried about your girl leaving you or losing your job or something. Because black people are always seen as always hurt, always sad. But that could be anybody. Even white people can be sad. That's why they call white people, when they come up with their version of singing music, it's called blue-eyed soul. Because white people, they sing in the blues and they put so much soul when they blue, when they sad. That's what it means. Rhythm means you just have the rhythm. Get the crowd shaking. Grooving, you grooving. Y'all just groove tonight. It's like slow jam. You get it? Jazzing means you jazzing. It's just like sex. And then rocking and rolling, you rocking and rolling. And then soul, you got so much soul in your heart. It's the same thing. So how can people say that rap is not music? Hip hop is not music. BS. Let's talk about hip hop. We already talked about the other elements of music. Let's talk about two elements, hip hop and pop. First, we're going to talk about hip hop. Hip hop music, also known as rap music, is a genre of popular music development in the United States by the inner city African American and Latino American in the Bronx boroughs of New York City in 1970. Cultural origin early 1970. The Bronx, New York City, U.S. But the parents is disco. Disco rap. When rap came along after disco was trying to die out, then you got trap, you got reggaeton. Reggaeton was influenced with Sosa, Sosa music, Latino music, and reggae. They all together. Funk means somebody stinking, bringing the sex into it. Reggae mean you rag. Reggae is just another word that you just ragging it. You ragging it up with your music. Because the founders of reggae music was three guys who started it. And that's called the Wailers. Rest in peace to Bobby Wailer. Bobby Wailer was the founder of the Wailers. And it was Bob and Peter Tosh. Bob Marley and Peter Tosh. God bless their soul, all three of them. If it wasn't for those three men, it wouldn't be no reggae music, period. They birthed that. It was started like jazz and sauce and rock steady. They just rock steady. They rock steady. Same thing, sex. And Bernard Utul and Motul and God Poso and Nuzla and many more. But it started in late 1960s in Jamaica, partly in Kingston. But it's a parts of the town of what reggae started was called Frenchtown. If you go to Frenchtown, that's where the home of Bob Marley and all this other stuff from Peter and come from from other parts of Jamaica and also Benny Weller. That started the whole thing. Roots reggae and loving rock. Reggae, especially and completed list. The list go on. This is where reggaeton got the influence of reggae music, and it become reggaeton. They mix it up with salsa and hip hop, and put the reggae. It become reggaeton was born. That was Puerto Rico, so that's in San Quentin. Go look that up, straight up. It says here, reggae in Africa was booted by the visit of Bob Marley to in Brazilian in 1980 in Jamaica, and correctly, the reggae is one of the biggest resources of income that what made Jamaica what it is today. Now, where the term reggae come from? The terminology in 1967, the editor of the definition of Jamaican English lists reggae as a regular and says a regular and slash for reg, as in reg and rag, a word that can mean either raggy clothes. That's what it means. Reggae. When you dressing all raggedy, your hair is all dreadfully, you look dreadful. This is what it means, and this has come from the whole meaning what makes reggae music what it's all about. You look the part, you become the person that you are, and that's come from the Rastafari movement, smoking that ganja with growing dreadlocks and stuff like that. Jamaicans are into that. Shit, believe me, I'm part Jamaican, so I know about the stuff that's in my blood. Ragged clothes or a quarter, a roll. Reggae as a musical term first appeared in print when with the 1968 Rocksteady do the reggae by the Malays, which naming the origin of reggae for the word. So they started the whole thing. What made the word reggae? They do the reggae. You just dressed all ragged and look raggable. You know, a word that we used to say in Jamaica called gusly reg. If a girl is walking and the guy looking at her and say, man, she's can reg, it means she don't dress well and she look raggedy. The woman used to say that about the men too. This one morning me and the two of my friends are playing and I say, okay man, let's do the reggae. It was just a thing that came out of my mouth. So we just started to sing do the reggae, and created a beat. People telling me later that we have given the sound its name, but for the people have called it blue beat and all kinds of other things. Now it's called the Genesis World of Record. See, they started this whole. But Bob Marley claimed that reggae comes from a Spanish term for the king music. The legislative of note to the king, and the conduct of the Christian gospel reggae, assuming that the word reggae was derived from the Latin word reg means to the king. Because some Jamaicans believe that black men were kings and queens. Even black men and black women believe this. Before the Europeans came in. Remember, Europeans had their own problems they got to deal with. They were their own kings and queens over there in Britain. But black men and black women were kings and queens in Ethiopia, and the list goes on. That's why Ethiopia has been blessed by the Bible, because they have a symbol of a lion, got the whole Ethiopia flag, and got the crown of the lion. Theirs is like the sheep with the England flag there that hold from the sheep. White people came from the Lamb of God, and black people came from the line of Judah. No wonder why they've been beefing for so long. Now, it's been going on for years. The original slave came from Eastern European. If you don't believe me, go look it up. It's right there. I ain't got time to explain. So, but listen to this. They said, and they said Jamaica Pati, the word tegere, loose woman, means she messed with other men. It's about sex. Into the reggae, however, Totally Honorable said, yeah, so do cut reggae. Basically, they're messing around. And then you got Scotch and Rocksteady. It's the same thing. It's all about sex, bro. And this whole Rastafari movement, they into this man, that Rastafari Ferrari or something like that, the Emperor of Ethiopia and all that, to come back to the motherland of Africa. The list goes on. Now, but give it up to the founders of the whole reggae music, from the Wailers and the people who created the word reggae to reggae. They dress in ragged and look in rag. I mean, look horrible. They ain't dressed very well. So in other words, they dress poorly dressed. This is what they said, but it's during to sex, to what they offer and what they could not offering. So this is what it means when you hear the word reggae. Rest in peace to Bunny Wailer. Okay, we already talked about hip hop. We already talked about reggae, but let's talk about pop music. Pop music, and what does it mean when you hear the word pop music? Pop is a genre of popular music that originate in its modern form during the mid-1950s in United States and United Kingdom. The term popular music and pop music are often used interchangeably all through the form of describing of all music that is popular, including many indescribable styles. So it started in United Kingdom, the UK, and hit to United States. and then Sergeant Pepper Lonely Household Band, and Pet Sound, and many more. And then pop bands came along with the New Kids on the Block, the Backstreet Boys, but who started off the whole pop genre. You got to go back to the quote unquote Beatles. Beatles came along, but it started in the early 50s, then until they hit to the 60s, mid 60s to 1960. When Beatles came along in 1964 to 1965 or something, basically 1963. So that's where it started from, folks. We got to look at these music, see what it means. Same thing, rock and roll. Same thing, rock and roll. But let's talk about pop music. It just basically means popular. It's hit to the pop and pop the charts. Or basically you popping someone. From popping to get it popping, like let's get it, get it on, have sex, or just pop somebody in the head. It could be violently. Now, let's talk about rock and roll. Rock and roll is started in 1940s to early 50s. Now, rhythm and blues, gospel, and boogie woogie, same thing, mixed with jazz, R&B, disco, you name it, and jazz and country and jump blue. It's the same thing. It's just different certain genres of music when they mix it all up together. And here's the terminology. The term rock and roll is defined by Craig Conant in Chronology and the Britannic as the music that originated in the mid-1950s and later development into more encompassing and international style known as rock music. The term is sometimes also used as similarly with the rock music it defined much as in some time definition. The phrase rockin' and rollin' originally described the movement of a ship on the ocean. If that is not slavery and come to us, I don't know what it is. That's all I can say about that. And also come from sex. We know what it is. By the early 20th century, it was using both to describe the spiritual flavors of black church rituals as a sexual analogist and a retired wellness of seamen named William Enforcement can be here singing the phrase rock and roll when describing as a sexual encounter in his performance of the tradition song, the Buffalo Night, to the unfolkingly James Madison Carter in the early 1930s, which he would have learned it at the sea in the 1800s. The recording can be heard on the Raleigh William Memorial Library website. Yep, same thing, blues. Development of gospel, blues, and swinging recording use the phrase before it becomes widely popular. It was used in the 1940s to recording and the review of what becomes known as rhythm and blues music, aiming at black audience. That came from us. That rock and roll music that came from. I'm gonna say this, man. I don't know why white people and black people is just stubborn. They don't want to admit. You know what? We did have sex with each other, so black men was forbidden to sleep with a white woman. Black woman forbidden to sleep with a white man. White men couldn't sleep with a black woman, and a white woman couldn't sleep with black men. But guess what? It happened. The babies came in, and that's what it came all about. And some stayed in their own race, but others, they got tired of their own race, so they just go to the other side. So it is what it is. Y'all need to come out and admit it. I don't care how pro-black, pro-white you are. You know damn well you got some a color barrier line with the ancestors who are white and black, but y'all won't admit it. So you could claim that you're 100%. Now, some of them is and some not. So this is where rock and roll comes from. Same thing goes for the blues. It's R&B. It's come from 1940s, 1950s to the funk and subtly and doo-wop and soul and rock and roll, reggae and disco, beat music when you beat on somebody, melody and hip hop. This is where it comes from. Boogie, spiritual, gospel, the list goes on. It's race music. Yeah, rhythm and blues is race music. It says here, it was replaced with the term race music, which was originally come from within the black community, but it was deemed offensive in the post-Smith War world. The term rhythm and blues was used by billboards and its charted list from June 1949 until August 1969, when its hot rhythm and blues singles charts was renaming it as the best-selling soul single before the rhythm and blues name was installed. And available recording companies have already been replaced the term race music with the of series. Yeah, so we invented not only rock and roll, we invented jazz, we invented hip hop, or rap, whatever, and don't see no profit. The reason why we don't run these music genres because we not funded and fundalize the banks. We don't fund it wars. We don't do that type of stuff. We do it for the love of it and trying to reach to the masses to make the world from right or wrong. They're only doing it for their own benefit, their own greed, and their own reason. Their selfish reason. They don't care if they try to make the better world as it is. As long as they see green. That's all they cared about. That's what you call corporation. Notice when I drop the corp off there and off the ration, then you know what I'm saying. Do your research on this, please. And let's talk about gospel music. Gospel, they worship God. They say they worship God, but the only God they worship is you know who. I'm going to leave that alone because that right there, people ain't going to believe that. I don't care what you say, what God they worship. Or they worship the Heavenly Father, or they worship the heavenly hell, if you ask me. Because it seems to me, they will deny it. And they'll say, no, we ain't talking about Satan. Yes, y'all is. This is why they look at rock as the devil's music. This is why they look at blues as the devil's music. And this is why even with all this other stuff. So what rock and hip hop got in common? They both loud, they both controversy, and they both just stick it to the men. That's what it's about. Being oppressed of unlowered class of the poor whites and the poor blacks by the corruptionized system. They got a lot in common. White men were depressed, black men depressed. So what is the difference? From being depressed by the rich whites and the rich blacks. Y'all gotta wake up. The black gospel, by far the most well-known and evaluated and engaging out of the African American music tradition, and have development in evaluable ways over the years, and continue to form the base of black church worship every today. It has also come to be used in gospel and probably in other cultures' traditions, especially within the Presbyterianism and validly the gospel choir and phenomenon, and spawned in the head by Thomas Dorothy has become a form of musical devour worldwide. This is where the word gospel come from, but it's also they trying to say that be blessed and blessed by God, giving gift to God to raise awareness, to make to uplift and make the world better, and the better for changement, for better for the whole people in society. This is what they talking about gospel. But the music they're doing now is very demonic. It's nothing but devil's music. Define your mother, define yourself, and define yourself as your men, as your father, and not care about the world, not care about anything. Now let's talk about country music. Country. Here's where country music. Black people created country music, believe it or not. Here, they never say, like, you live in the country, you living on the farm. Talk about, milking cows, feed the chickens, feed the pigs, you name it. Just live everything with drove the car derby. I mean, all that stuff. That is country music right there. So it's the same thing. All folk music, American folk, and probably industrial blues, old time, western, New Mexico, and red dirt, and Tezo. That's where Tex-Mex music. Tezo is nothing but Mexican music, kind of. That's what Tego music. Tego music is another word because Selena is the queen of Tego music. She was the queen of that, and God bless her soul. That's I forgot what it stands for. It meant something else. It meant it basically means friendly. I'm not for sure, quote me if I'm wrong. I'm not for sure what Tekio music. I forgot what it means. God bless her soul. Rest in peace to Selena. What else, man? It's so many music. It's so many music. It means Texas. That's Texas music, basically. That's what it means. Texas means Texas music. That's all it means. It's birthed by Mexico all the way to Texas and California. That's what it means. We already talked about rock and roll. We already talked about jazz, R&B, and pop music, and hip hop, and all that go on. Let's talk about soul music. Putting much soul to it, right? It says here, the origin. Soul music has its roots in traditional African American gospel music, rhythm and blues, and the hospitalizing of the perspective of religion and certainly style in both lyrical content and in traditional deed that begins in 1950s. The term soul has been used along with African American musicians to phrasing the feeling of being a African American. Hold on. Hey, I'm back. What else are we gonna go? Okay. In the beginning of the 1950s, the term soul has been used along with African American musicians to the phrase of the feel of being African American in the United States. According to the musicology, Barry Hudson, through this Hollywood producing a luncheon of hits in the R&B market in the early 1950s. Only the most adventurous of white fans feel its impact at the time. The rest have to wait for the coming of the soul music in the 1960s to feel the rush of rockin' and rollin' song gospel style. See, this is what it means when they say gospel. They got so much soul because we put so much soul in hearts and our minds to it. Same thing like gospel, R&B, rock, jazz, and all that stuff. Let's talk about jazz before we wrap this. Okay. The origins of the word jazz have result in considered of the research, and its history is well documented. It is believed to be relation to justly a slinging of the term dated back to 1860, meaning prep and energy. The early writing recording of the word is in a 1912. The article in the Los Angeles Times in which a minor league baseball pitch described a pitch which he called jazz ball because it's wavy and you simply can't do anything with it. He just he just swinging up to it to start to become a swing ball, circle around the ball. That's what it means. What you try to say. But it's basically just like sex, man. It's just like sex, or just you put much swing to it and how you swing your hips. Same thing, grooving and all that other stuff. Before I go, man, let's talk about the Grammys, man. You know, everybody talk about the Grammy this, Grammy that. Now rappers are pissed off because they don't get the acknowledgement. Let me explain this to you. Hip hop is the only music that only sample other people's songs. Have you noticed that a lot of other music genres that don't sample? But why hip hop? Hip hop comes from a beat machine. Starts beat machine. They record beats and use the beats to samples to sampleize the music. That's why hip hop don't get the respect. Even the first instrument of hip hop is turntables. They scratch the records. All it does is just ruin the record, ruin the playment of the records. This is why they don't respect hip hop in most part. They respect jazz, R&B, funk, and all this other stuff because other music don't sample like hip hop does. Until they play live instrument, then they ain't gonna respect hip hop because they think hip hop's just nothing but degrading and meanful and minimalize women in society and violence, and the list goes on. This is why they don't respect hip hop. But hip hop should get the same respect as any other music. Hold on. Yeah. Hey, I'm back. Okay. Where we at this point? Okay, what does Grammys mean? Okay. History. The Grammys have their origin in Hollywood Walk of Fame project in the 1950s as a recorded exclusive choose for the Walk of Fame committee working at plotting of a list of important recording industry people who made quality for a Walk of Fame star. They realize there are many more people who are leaders in their business who would not earn a star on Hollywood, Hollywood Avenue. The music executive declared to reflect this by creating a award given by their industry familiar to the Oscar and the Emmys. After it was decided to create much as a award, there was still a question of what it's called. One worker's title was the Eddie to honor the event of the photographic Thompson Edwardson. They evenly settled on using the Grammy as a dedication to Ed and Broccoli as a phone. Awards are first given for the year 1958. The first Emmy Awards ceremony was held, especially in two locations, on May the 4th, 1959, in Beverly Hilton Hotel in the Beverly Hills, California, and the Parker and Sterling Hotel in New York City, and 28 Grammys are awarded. The numbers of awards given the grow and the diversity over the years with categories and added and removed at one time, reaching over 100. The second Grammy Awards, also hosted in 1959, was the first cemetery, first cemetery to be televised by the cemetery, but the cemetery was not aired live until the 13th Academy Grammy Awards in 1971. So they never been on it until in 1971 when they firstly honored about the awards. You know what, man? They all are industry planners. I don't know about her, but this one and that one, these two are industry planners. But she was an artist in her right, and so is this one. But these two don't write their own music. That's all I can say about that. They ghostwriting. Let me say this. Who gives a damn about the Grammy Awards and Emmy and Academy Awards and all this stuff, for the Oscars and all this other stuff? Who cares? They only give you an award when you achieve something to your achievement by the improvement, the privatization to these people. That's it. That's it. Okay? That's it. You know, no matter how much achievement awards that you get, they're not going to give you actual treatment. So, hip-hop is not playing actual instruments. That's why they don't get respected like they should. And they think music is fleck on violence. It came from the streets. It did not come from the suburbs. It came from the inner city. It came from the affected lifestyle. It was really part of music. And before it became violent. But violence been around since decades before music. So you can't put that on the music. You got to put on the conditions of human beings. So that explains why music don't reflect hip-hop and have no better reflection what hip-hop is and what hip-hop would never was and never will be. But all I can say about this, man, what can I say anymore? So fuck the Grammys. Did achievement awardment and realize and be awardment for yourself, and all your achievement is your appreciation from your heart. That's what I say. Before I go, did you notice that Academy of Television Arts and Science, it stands from NASIS? It's spelled backwards, means Satan. Think about it. It's spelled Satan backwards. To N-A-T-A-S, but it spells Satan backwards. But if you flipped it, it'd be S-A-T-A-N. It's spelled Satan or Nasit. Nas stuff. Because there's a rap group called Nasif. It means Satan. Don't take my word for it. Do your research. There's something ain't right here. Plain and simple. That's all I can say. Just fuck the Grammys. Be a warman of yourself, and don't let other people warm of your achievement for greatness and great for your heart, and not for war of achievements for anything. For this, prove to the system. Reprove the system for yourself. That's all I can say. It's your boy Domination. This is Back of Basic. Chugging to do something text, baby. Till next time. All right. Peace. I'm out. All right. Peace.